7. No two words in sports are more dramatic. For one team, the dream of an NBA championship remains alive. For the other, it's the finality of yet another season unfulfilled. Karl Malone and John Stockton have spent their storybook careers in Utah and have never been this close to the NBA Finals. Their legacy and personal achievements will forever hold a place in NBA history. Tonight, they face what could be their last shot at their ultimate ambition. Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton are the next generation and heirs apparent to the Malone-Stockton standard. Early on, it appeared youth was poised to triumph. The star tandem led Seattle to a 3-1 series edge, just one win shy of the team's first final round appearance since 1979. The momentum has since shifted to the Jazz. Stockton and Malone have brought their team back to the brink of the promised land. Seattle's past playoff horrors are again staring them in the face. But this team has exhibited superior character this year. Can that character prevail? Or will the Jazz ride their own momentum? The winner goes to Chicago.
This is the NBA on NBC. The 1996 NBA Conference Finals.
Welcome to Seattle, Washington. Tonight, the pinnacle of Western Conference basketball. Game 7 between the Utah Jazz and the Seattle Sonics. On Friday, 5,000 fans have showed up in downtown Seattle to cheer their Sonics on as they approach Game 7. Jerry Sloan has brought his Utah Jazz to town, a determined John Stockton and his Seattle counterpoint, Gary Payton. Hersey Hawkins of the Sonics kissing his loved ones goodbye as he enters Key Arena for the biggest game of his career, and Detlef Schrempf is ready as well. So is a packed house at Key Arena for Game 7 between the Sonics and the Jazz. Hi everyone, and welcome to Seattle. I'm Greg Gumbel along with Bill Walton and Steve Jones. Let's start with the Utah Jazz first, who are breathing some very rare air these days. It's the first time in the 22-year history of the Utah Jazz has the franchise been in a Game 7 of a Western Final. They have never before played a basketball game in the month of June. All of this has the big players ready, including Karl Malone.
I look forward to the big game because you don't need any pep talk. You don't need, my ideal situation is for Coach Sloan to walk in the pregame meeting and say, I don't have nothing to say, you guys know how big it is. That's what I would love. Because I've never been here before, and I try to approach it the same as always, but it's an excitement that I like because everything's on the line. And like I said, it's no excuses, and you get ready to play these kind of games, no matter where you're at. It don't matter if you're just playing them out in the parking lot. A Game 7 is what it's all about.
For Karl Malone, known as the mailman, it's been rain, sleet, mud, snow, whatever. He's always made the delivery for the Utah Jazz. But this is a player who loves a big stage and relishes the big moment. He plans on delivering not only today, but deep into June because he needs a championship.
All right, Steve. Meanwhile, the Seattle Sonics, well, they're still fighting ghosts of the past. Each of the last 2 years eliminated in the first round with 3 consecutive losses. A third straight loss to Utah today would send them home and not to the finals. They're also fighting some local battles. Take a look at the newspaper headline that greeted them after a Game 6 loss in Salt Lake City, but none of this deters head coach George Karl.
Every month this year, we've won big games. Every month, November, December, January, we've gone and won games where people didn't think we have a chance of winning. And we've come back and won games at home when we were down 9 with a minute to go. We've done things with character. So, yeah, I think you're going to see a damn good basketball team play a damn good basketball game.
Seattle's high wire act stumbled this week, but fortunately they have the NBA's ultimate safety net, the home court advantage. Won this year in spectacular fashion, where they were second only to the Chicago Bulls. Won because of the electrifying play of Gary Payton, who carried this team throughout. Now the biggest of these games are decided by the brightest stars. They've got to let themselves go out and be more than just yourself. Being average won't get it done today, and animated Gary Payton for Seattle has to pay the absolute best game of his life. In the end, history will be very kind, Greg, to the winning Stars today.
All right, Bill. Bob Costas in our NBA studios after a timeout, and then Malone, Stockton, and the Utah Jazz against Kemp, Payton, and the Seattle Sonics. Game 7. Hey, what more do you have to know?
Hi again, everyone. Bob Costas in New York. Tip-off in Seattle is set for 7:15 Eastern Time, and we'll bring you the introductions of the Jazz and Sonics in just a few minutes. Utah is playing in its 100th game of the season. That's the most in the NBA this year, and tonight is the first time in franchise history that the Jazz have played a game in the month of June. And while Karl Malone has remained focused on getting to his first NBA Finals, his thoughts tonight are also with a friend.
32 points for number 32 tonight. What are you going to do in the next 72 hours?
I'm just going to relax. It was a great victory, but one of my closest friends, he don't have long to live. The little boy that is right there, so it's tough. It's a bittersweet win because of that, but I'm just going to relax and try to spend some time with him and my family and stuff like that and get ready for Sunday.
The boy Malone referred to is 13-year-old Danny Ewing. They met more than a year ago in a Utah hospital where Danny was being treated for leukemia. His condition is terminal.
He's like my inspiration, and I know he don't know that, but, you know, it's sort of amazing because last night I said, I do what I do for you, and I always told him to stay strong for me. And last night when I told him that, he said, I'm staying strong for you. And this when you realize that basketball is not important as we think it is. I talked to his mom, and she said, I was talking to Danny, and, you know, she was telling about angels and stuff like that. And he said, hey, you know, he said, Mom, he said, I know it might sound weird, he said, but Carl is my angel, and I love him to death. And I told him, I said, you better hang in there. And, you know, I never gave my jersey away, but I gave it to him last night, and, you know, he told his mom that's what he wanted in life. And he said, hey, when it's my time, Mom, I don't want a suit and tie or nothing. I want this jersey. This is what I want to wear. So.
You can bet that Danny Ewing knows that Karl Malone has been the second leading playoff scorer this year behind Michael Jordan. This is as close as the Jazz have ever been to the NBA Finals. For the esteemed duo of Malone and Stockton, their best and some might say their last chance to get there. As for Seattle, sitting pretty just a few days ago, they are now one way or another on the brink. Either on the brink of another crushing playoff disappointment or on the brink of the NBA Finals. Game 7, Utah and Seattle, is coming up after these messages.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Miller Lite. With a great taste of an ice-cold Miller Lite, life is good. By Pontiac, proud sponsor of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team. We are driving excitement. And by Castrol GTX, engineered for greater protection against breakdown.
Game 7 on tap in Seattle. Let's go to the public address announcer here at Key Arena, Jim Gracie.
The following is a presentation of Full House Sports and Entertainment. And now, ladies and gentlemen, time for today's starting lineups. First of all, for the visiting Utah Jazz. A 6'1" guard from Gonzaga, number 12, John Stockton. A 6'4" guard from Iowa State, number 14, Jeff Hornacek. 7-foot center from Louisville, number 50, Felton Spencer. A 6'8" forward from Auburn, number 43, Chris Morris. And a 6'9" forward from Louisiana Tech, number 32, Karl Malone. Ladies and gentlemen, get on your feet for the 1996 Pacific Division champions, your Seattle Supersonics. And today's starting lineup for your Supersonics, a 6'4" guard from Oregon State, number 20, Gary Payton. A 6'3" guard from Bradley University, number 33, Hersey Hawkins. 6'11" center from New Orleans, number 50, Irvin Johnson. 6'10" forward from the University of Washington, number 11, and a 6'10" forward from Trinity Junior College, number 40, Sean. And the head coach of your Seattle Supersonics, George Karl.
Working the sidelines with us this evening, Ahmad Rashad and Jim Gray. Let's check in with Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Greg. And talking to Jerry Sloan about the home court advantage that Seattle has, he says that it definitely will affect them. But at this point in the season, it's all about focus and tunnel vision. It's almost like challenging yourself to see how hard you can practice in the gym all by yourself. And I talked to Karl Malone about this 7th game of this playoff series. He said it's a one-game playoff, and there are no tricks, there are no adjustments. The toughest team wins. He feels like they have the toughest team. Now for the Seattle side of it, let's go down to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Ahmad. Well, I spoke with George Karl, and he told me he really didn't sleep much last night. Now, Karl usually speaks to his team for about 8 minutes before the game. Well, today, after about 3 minutes, he just said, hey, guys, get out of here. Forget all this stuff. Just go play and be your best. Now, as for Nate McMillan, he's been bothered by a bad back. That has led to a right hamstring problem. Well, McMillan told me that he has taken a shot of cortisone to try and loosen things up. He says right now, it has not kicked in. He feels as though he will be very limited in his abilities. And finally, now, as for Gary Payton, who has had a life-threatening family crisis all this week, which has been talked about, he told me now that last night the entire family spent the evening together, that things are now much, much better. He was with his mother, his father, and his sister, and now he can simply concentrate on basketball.
Are you ready? Sonics fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance here at the Key and the millions watching around the world on television, there's only one thing left to say. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
And that's how noisy it gets here in Seattle on occasion, especially for Game 7. I think the table has been suitably set. Dick Bavetta, Hugh Evans, Mike Mathis are our officials.
Greg, Seattle has to get back to playing their type of basketball. Their defense has got to force turnovers as Karl Malone and Sean Kemp get ready. They got to get to the hoop. Seattle doesn't finish strongly. That's particularly Gary Payton there. And their interior game has to set up lots of three-point shooting for Seattle.
Well, this game has been a day too late for everyone. All these players are ready. You talk about sweaty palms. They really want to get each other. And I think the Utah Jazz feel that they played yesterday. Certainly, they would be the victors.
Teams have gotten off to quick starts the last 2 games. Tuesday night, Game 5, the Seattle Sonics jumped off to a 10-0 lead. Thursday night in Salt Lake City, it was Utah jumping to a 12-0 start.
Foul called on Karl Malone for an elbowing foul. Mike Mathis right on the call. We look at the history of the home court advantage in Game 7s. Severely dominant, over 80%.
Hersey Hawkins, who has sworn to come out more aggressive. Sean Kemp with the turnaround.
The Utah Jazz know that the Sonics want an emotional start. They want to keep the crowd in the ball game, and their job is to control the tempo of the game, control the crowd.
Look for a very physical game here today. Malone shot no good. Kemp with the rebound.
The quickness of Gary Payton.
You know, Greg, this game has so many plots and subplots, but the one that everyone's hanging their hat on are the two stars, Payton and Kemp, Stockton and Malone, everyone pulling for the veterans. They haven't ever been there to a championship, but these young guys know you don't get many chances.
Irvin Johnson with the foul at this end of the court, and we go the other way.
Terrific refereeing right off the start. 2 offensive fouls on screen sets. The first on Karl Malone with a wild elbow, then on Irvin Johnson.
Pass inside, picked off by the Sonics.
Utah's got to get something at the basket. Seattle's pushing them back.
Payton. Gary Payton was out here earlier than he has ever been for a playoff game. He's very determined to change things around from a subpar performance last time out. Payton is there.
What they didn't do in games 5 and 6 was come up with the loose ball, have that energy, make the big plays.
Traveling violation is called. No basket.
Payton said, I was dribbling. You can't travel when you're dribbling, but they take it away.
Terrific officiating. Offensive fouls called on screens. They're calling steps.
Each side, 2 turnovers. We still have a 2-0 game. 10-10 to play in the first. Stockton breaks free.
Perfect execution in the half-court set. Utah's forte. Slicing off that post. Maybe that foul that Karl Malone took earlier was worth it. Now the guards coming off will be a little hesitant.
Well, that foul was well intended. I mean, this is a physical team. They want the Sonics to know that it's not going to be an easy afternoon. Illegal defense, Utah.
You will see that call more than a few times this evening. Let's go back to that terrific passing play at the other end.
John Stockton off the high post pick. His biggest obstacle today, John Stockton, is going to be overcoming his greatest strength, which is consistency. He's got to elevate his game today over his normal level.
Detlef Schrempf. Schrempf averaging 15.9 a game in the playoffs.
They haven't gotten Schrempf involved in the games early enough in 5 and 6. He came out early as well. Wasn't missing his shot. That jumper shows he's going to be looking to try to take advantage of Morris and Russell.
Hornacek down the lane off the pass from Malone.
Karl Malone continues to pass beautifully. Utah needs to get Chris Morris a shot early to get him involved. He was brilliant at the start of Game 6.
Schrempf.
Nice step out by Felton Spencer, who also has to make some early contributions.
Tied at 4. Stockton top of the key for 3.
Real John Stockton showed up in Game 6 and appears to be carrying that forward. That's 5 early. Sean Kemp.
Stripped to the ball, out of bounds to Utah.
Steve, John Stockton started turning it around in the overtime of Game 5. Got an offensive rebound, made some steals. That jumper exemplifies the spring and life in his game.
Shooting just 27% from behind the line so far, and he hits a second straight one.
The guy couldn't make a shot for 5 games, and suddenly he's can't miss. A big story for the Utah Jazz.
Kemp will go to the line for the 3-point play.
Superb job for Sean Kemp. Eschewing the double clutch, which has been his downfall for years. Just going right in once the contact goes, just continuing right through. The disappointing and disconcerting thing for George Karl and the Sonics is in Game 5 and 6, Sean Kemp was terrific. Had big minutes, no fouls. Terrible play.
Irvin Johnson couldn't convert the gift giveaway. Back come the Jazz. Chris Morris for 3. And the Jazz have come out clicking from behind the 3-point line. They lead at 13-6.
This is an extremely athletic and talented Utah team. Steps or 3 seconds.
Well, 3 seconds. Kemp telling his team, we got to move, we got to find the angles. Don't let me get stuck with the basketball. But for the Utah Jazz, and John Stockton is perfect from the field. The win in Game 5 is what set the stage for them to be here. They believe regardless of what happens with the crowd, they know how to handle the defense of the Sonics.
Gary Payton really whacking Stockton away from the ball.
Malone off the mark. Rebound to Hersey. Hawkins. Whistle blows. And this looks like it'll go against Seattle. Loose ball foul is on Payton.
Mike Mathis had this play all the way. Payton bumping, hooking, grabbing, holding. When the final shot was taken, just held him down. That was really an accumulation foul.
Then he was late. He added it up, and then he finally said, well, it's a foul. But, you look at Hersey Hawkins trying to be more aggressive. That means if they're going to spread things out, Malone travels.
Steve, on that high post rub-off for the guard, I think a good quick pass to the cutter. That play is open right away. Karl Malone shuffles his feet on the nice rotating defense.
Tuesday night here in Seattle with a chance to put the Jazz away. Utah came up with a 3-point win in overtime. The Sonics swore to come out more aggressive in Game 6, but did not in Salt Lake City. They're trying to do that again here, and Gary Payton scores.
The size and strength of Payton inside, and the athleticism, that's where the real edge is for Seattle in this series. Payton over John Stockton, but they'll have to capitalize.
Malone with a pass to Stockton. 10 points for John Stockton.
Like so many teams just stand at the perimeter and watch guys play in the post. Utah, they split, they cut through.
Karl Malone disagrees with the call by Mike Mathis that it's Seattle basketball, but the call stands as the Jazz try to calm their leader down. 6:48 to play in the first quarter. Timeout on the floor. The Jazz 15, the Sonics 8. This is the NBA on NBC. The heart and soul of the Utah Jazz, Karl Malone, as we welcome you back to Seattle. This was the scene in Game 6, Thursday night in Salt Lake City. Karl's mom, Shirley Turner, sitting courtside. She's not here today because of what happened Tuesday night here.
My mom and Felton, Spencer mom, and Antoine Carmon, they went out to a little place called Wendover, and they gambled the night we won here. So they went back out there yesterday, and they did the identical same thing. They wore the same clothes, they did the same restaurant, and they stayed in the same room, and they watching the game on TV. So I said, Mom, if it worked for you, fine. I'm not a superstitious kind of guy, but it worked at one time. I said, go do the same thing. So I gave her the money and said, I'll see you when I get home.
But he's not a superstitious kind of guy.
I just go along with that extra edge. The Seattle Supersonics play better when they're down early. They seem to play out of fear, and that gets their attention. We'll see if that happens. Hawkins for 30.
Hersey Hawkins was 0 for 8 from the floor in the blowout loss Thursday night at Salt Lake City, and vowed that it would be different here tonight.
But how do they get those threes? All that sets up by getting to the hoop and sucking that defense in. That's something they have not done well in this series, as their three-point shooting has slumped horribly the last 4 games.
Malone will go to the line and shoot 2 off the nice pass from John Stockton.
Now, if you talk about a team making an adjustment, this is where Utah has made their adjustment. They led the league in field goal percentage, and the reason for it, they get a lot of layups. In the first 4 games, they were struggling to get those. Now they're almost getting them at will. Karl Malone getting his first layup attempt this afternoon.
The fans counting Karl Malone down. It has been an issue here in Seattle. The fans feel that Karl Malone takes more than the mandatory 10 seconds to get his shot away. So Malone gets the ball now. They will start. And Stockton makes the steal.
John Stockton is the sharpest player in the game today.
Well, he's got a mismatch and trying to take advantage of it, and Chris Morris got in, and they give him a shot.
Seattle comes away with the ball, and Kemp draws the foul. That'll be number 2 on Felton Spencer.
Felton Spencer was terrific in Game 6. The blowout not off to a good start today with a couple of fouls early. This is a shot that Chris Morris has get to go down. Steve, we talked in a blowout Thursday night at Salt Lake City how Utah had to come out with a spectacular open. They had to come out and play perfect basketball for the first 8 minutes. They've come close to that. Chris Morris's stick back there would have helped their cause.
Well, it certainly would have, but they've gotten Chris Morris in the game. He comes out, Brian Russell is in the game. He has done a better job defensively against Detlef Schrempf. See if Schrempf stays aggressive at the offensive end, because Russell's a guy that's made him become tentative and hesitant about shooting the ball.
Greg Foster has also come off the bench, and Kemp goes right around Foster for the basket. 6 points for Sean Kemp. 15-13, Jazz lead is 2.
Last 2 games, Sean Kemp's played 40 minutes a game, got 25 points and 14 rebounds a game.
Hornacek pops off of the pick and gives it back to Malone, who works on Sam Perkins. Fall away front rim, Perkins with the rebound. Payton gonna push it. Schrempf. And whistle blows, and an offensive foul.
Detlef Schrempf can't believe they're going to call this on him, but that's that's Seattle basketball. George Karl has to be very pleased with this tempo here, the fast break generated by the defense. Just to push off there, very little contact. The defender easily moving backward.
Here's the Brian Russell defense on Detlef Schrempf as Stockton sits down. He's 4 for 4 from the field, replaced by Howard Isley, who throws it away. Shoot 2.
A different Hersey Hawkins, up and alert defensively, able to get into the passing lane to make that play possible. They haven't made a lot of steals. As a matter of fact, they're down big to the Utah Jazz. They led the league the last couple of seasons, but a more aggressive Hersey Hawkins. And that's his storyline for the day. Do whatever it takes to win the game.
Hersey Hawkins, in fact, saying, hey, if you have to throw a few elbows, if you've got to lay someone out on the floor, this is a Game 7. You've got to do it today. Payton hits 1 out of 2. The Jazz save the ball.
That last turnover by Howard Isley, that's the first poor play that I can remember him having in this entire series. He's played magnificently in reserve behind Stockton.
Now you look at the way Hawkins is really shadowing.
There's another throwaway. This time Hornacek, and Kemp is fouled on his way to the basket.
What is Utah doing? Utah's driving away from the basket to the sideline, to the corner, jumping in the air and throwing cross-court passes. That's the way they lost Game 2 when John Stockton did it. Now they're feeding Sean Kemp, Hersey Hawkins, and a breakaway foul call.
And exactly the kind of turnovers Seattle was committing Thursday night in Salt Lake City. Sean Kemp will shoot 2.
If you look at Sean Kemp, who came out early, I mean, he is lathered and beaded up, and he is really excited, but playing with control, and that's made a huge difference for George Karl. Both of the free throws.
Sonics by 1, 16-15. Seattle, winners of 64 games during the regular season. They have now scored the last 8 points over a 2-minute span.
Hersey Hawkins' defense on Hornacek has been solid.
Hornacek. Jeff Hornacek came up with 23 points in Game 6.
So much for solid D.
Well, no, I mean, Hornacek has been shooting the ball without hesitating. That was great defense, but great offense. He's got one of the quickest releases in the league, and he's able to get that one up and down.
Nice weak side rotation by Foster.
Perkins for 3.
This is the kind of game that Sam Perkins will shine in. Terrific veteran, championship experience, college level, played in the finals against Chicago and Jordan in '91.
Batted away by Perkins, out of bounds.
You've got to watch George Karl because he's trying to pick and choose when he sends the double team. That time, he was up and animated, telling them to get after him because they felt they had a chance to make a steal, almost had it.
Look at the Seattle bench. They got 6 coaches standing up there. They're all doing circular motions. Players get confused looking over there.
Everybody stays home. Hornacek with the ball. On the corner, and Payton got a piece of it. NBA's defensive Defensive Player of the Year with the play. Drives, gives to Hawkins.
Defense leading to offense. Seattle's main weapon.
Hawkins has 5. We have 2:50 to play in the first. Sonics lead it by 4.
Normally, Isley gets about 4 minutes, but he's only been in the game 2, and John Stockton back at the bench. Sloan knows how big this is. He's got to settle his team down.
Particularly with Stockton playing so well.
Shot clock down to 5. Malone comes up shy. Kemp with the rebound.
Not a shot we see Karl Malone take a lot. A Ewing runner across his body from the right box.
Vincent Askew's 3 is way off the mark, and Isley has the rebound. Now comes the double team at Isley again. Brian Russell. And the lob into Malone. And Malone overshoots the basket. One of the foul called, none coming. Back come the Sonics in a hurry. And Hawkins travels. Well, the Sonics will take issue with Hugh Evans for that call. In the meantime, we'll stop with 2:03 to play in the first. The Sonics 21, the Jazz 17. There are no more tomorrows for the loser. The winner moves on to the NBA championship round. Karl Malone averaging almost 27 points a game in the postseason, 0 for 5, no points so far this afternoon. Meanwhile, at the off-guard position, the matchup between Hersey, Hawkins, and Jeff Hornacek is one to watch. Hornacek, we told you, 23 points in Game 6. Not off to the quick start yet today. Averaging 22, while Hersey Hawkins averages 10. And Hersey Hawkins says this.
I spoke to one of my closest friends last night. Johnny Dawkins called me, and you know, he has a way of laying into you in a gentle way. And you know, he basically told me, listen, he said, you know, Game 7 situations, you don't want to look back on this 5 or 10 years down the road and think that you didn't give it all you had. And he said, you're an offensive player, so go out there and play offense and do whatever it takes to win. And, you know, then if you don't win, you can look in the mirror and say, hey, I still did my best.
Well, Karl Malone got his first basket, and Hersey Hawkins says, you know it's a meaningful phone call when the guy calls you from the East Coast and it's 3 a.m. Eastern time. Hawkins on the bench.
Hopefully John Dawkins got up to make that phone call.
Nate McMillan on the floor for the first time today for 3. McMillan hobbled severely.
But not a good strategy for Nate, who is one of the class gentlemen in this league. Hasn't been playing well, been limited by minutes, and coming the first touch, shoot a 3. I don't think so.
You know, part of their philosophy is to beat themselves, and if they have a shot, to take a shot. Steal McMillan.
Kemp down the lane. And Foster back for the rebound.
Terrific rebound by Foster. They've got to get Karl Malone some looks where he can step out about 10 to 12 feet off the box, turn, face, and drive to the hoop. He's got a much smaller man as view on him here.
Seattle's defense has been very active here early. Malone gets that one deep. And an easy 2.
That's the kind of play he needs. He's been shooting fadeaways every time.
We're tied at 21, the last 45 seconds of the first quarter.
You know, Greg, Bill Walton didn't sleep last night, and when he did, he dreamed that he played in this game. I've already taken 3 shots from him in the ribs, so, you know, he's up for this, and all of the people here are as well. Another turnover.
We won by 100 last night, Steve. And I was rolling up and down that floor.
That, of course, is after we get through all the fire drills in our hotel. 25 seconds to the first quarter.
If you're a defender, what you want to do is go at John Stockton. Do not let him initiate, because if he gets you back on his heels, he's going to go all the way, or he's going to pull up and shoot the shot. Ask you.
Stockton. That's his first miss of the game. Perkins with the rebound. 5 seconds for the quarter. Payton tried to go behind his back, and Malone called timeout with 7/10 of a with a second to play.
Very poor timeout.
This will be a 20-second timeout.
Players have gotten in the habit of calling timeout in these kinds of situations. Game recognition dictates that you just let this one go. You'll need that 20-second at some other point here in the first half.
Steve, you need to prepare yourself. These kind of plays, you wait till late in the third and throughout the fourth quarter.
Want to remind you that prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, Wednesday night, game 1 of the NBA Finals. Join us. The Bulls will host the winner of this game, either Seattle or Utah. The Jazz or the Sonics against the Bulls in the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan looks happy now. It'll be too much rest for the Chicago standout. It's the NBA Finals in prime time, Wednesday night Eastern here on NBC. Well, the Bulls dispatched the Orlando Magic in 4, and they've just been sitting around while these guys have gone 7 games. How much rest is too much rest?
However much they're getting is going to be too much, because at this point in the season, you need those games. You need the crowd pushing you, yelling at you to be able to fight through the level of pain that you're in by this point of the season to maintain your conditioning. Utah having trouble getting it in.
Russell with the hook at the buzzer and almost hit it. Oh, would Kareem Abdul-Jabbar been proud of that sky hook. John Stockton, 4 out of 5 and 10 points to lead the Jazz. Sean Kemp has 8 on 3 of 5 shooting from the floor. This is the one for all the marbles, the one that moves the winner against the Chicago Bulls. Coming back for the start of the second quarter, we're tied at 21.
You're watching the NBA on NBC. The 1996 NBA Playoffs.
Craig Gumbel, Bill Walton, Steve Jones, Ahmad Rashad, Jim Gray back at Key Arena in Seattle. This is how the first quarter came to an end. The big hook from beyond half court by Brian Russell almost went in.
And it would have been a good timeout if he had made it.
Well, from the basket cam, you see just how close it was as it ricocheted in and out. But we had a great opening quarter of play. Both teams have worked out the nerves, and now it'll be a question of what contribution Seattle gets off the bench versus the contribution of Russell and Carr, who have been more consistent in Game 5 and 6.
Steve, Ahmad was telling us from the Utah bench about how Jerry Sloan displeased with the big man rotation against Seattle's press, and how they want to get Karl Malone more in the paint. Forget the fadeaway stuff, according to Ahmad and Jerry Sloan.
Russell now tight on Gary Payton, who gets by and goes through the lane.
And certainly we've seen a more aggressive Gary Payton than we saw in Game 6. He seemed to be distracted, wasn't in the ball game, looking to penetrate and make things happen.
Frank Burkowski into the game now. His job to shadow Karl Malone. Shot clock down to 7. Malone around his man, can't get it to fall, and Burkowski has the rebound.
Not a good offensive start for Karl Malone today. Too many dribbles, too much hesitation. Needs quicker moves to the hoop.
Malone is 2 for 8 from the floor today.
But Malone is going to get into this game. He's the kind of player that sometimes will struggle early and eventually get a rhythm. They're going to get a push underneath. The Sonics will get a new 24. Antoine Carr, the big dog, the original big dog.
Hey, still the big dog. The new big dog needs to do something. This big dog has already done it.
Now Russell has got the job of defending Payton, and when Payton sees this, he's going to try to beat him around the corner.
He's going to try Hawkins for 3. And that'll be out of bounds to Utah.
Good pass by Nate McMillan. You can just see the pain on his face when he tries to move. It's so sad. There's a guy who's given everything to this franchise, the only team he's ever played for. Taking a shot and his blow back before the game. So dangerous.
The nerve problem affecting his left leg. And as we saw in Salt Lake City on Thursday night, he cannot elevate very well.
But nothing's going to keep him out of this game, and certainly if they win it, nothing's keeping them out of the championship. Both of these teams know they may not get to this championship again, and they're going to leave it all out today.
Carr converts off the bad pass. Morris and Brian Russell in the game at the same time, something we have not seen from Utah.
We got Brian Russell playing some big guard. There's Sam Perkins stroking everything, bringing it all. Perkins moving so well. I have not been impressed, Greg, with Utah's ability to feed the post quickly. Nate McMillan gets called for a foul. Stockton looks so much quicker than he has at any time during the course of this series. Here's a slow pass that Bukowski gets out on, and the strength in the hands of Antoine Carr enables him to finish with no weak side rotation.
Meanwhile, John Stockton went right over to Antoine Carr and told him, you've got to be moving on those drives.
The problem that they have in handling John Stockton's tough shot to Russell is that they are letting him initiate. And if you're a defender, you cannot allow a guard to come at you and expect that you can control him.
We have timeout on the floor with 9:52 to play. The Sonics lead it by 2. This is the NBA on NBC.
Michael and the Bulls want the West winner. The NBA Finals Game 1, Wednesday night. The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Bud Light, official sponsor of the 1996 Summer Olympic Games. Make it a Bud Light. By Ford Escort. It's new and it's nifty, made for the smart, the intelligent thrifty. And by Nike, who encourages you to participate in the lives of America's youth.
Next weekend, NBC Sports continues its coverage of the French Open presented by Perrier. Number 1 seed Pete Sampras looks to add a French Open trophy to his collection, the only Grand Slam title that has eluded him. Grand Slam tennis on NBC. The French Open presented by Perrier. Special daytime coverage of the men's semifinal action next Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. The women's final next Saturday at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And the men's final next Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific on NBC.
Sampras looked pretty good today. That basketball move he was working on.
Heads out of bounds off Carr, who protests the push from Bukowski from behind. Frank Bukowski comes off of the Seattle bench playing physical basketball.
They've got an unusual lineup a small lineup, and this is what George Karl likes to do, to get a team to try to match up with him, move people in and out. Bukowski knocks down Russell.
So Bukowski comes back, and that's his second personal foul.
Shrimp comes back in, and Sean Kemp comes in. So Shrimp and Kemp and Perkins and Gary Payton out of the ball game.
Seattle getting stellar play, Utah, solid play out of their backcourt. Stockton and Hornacek 6 for 9 between them. Rest of the team just 4 for 15.
Foster with Shrimp on it. Gets a look. Greg Foster. And we're tied at 25.
Foster was their 3rd or 4th string center this year behind Spencer, Ostertag, Adam Keefe, Antoine Carr. Now he's playing terrific minutes.
And Stockton going to get called up top for this one.
One thing that Jerry Sloan said about Game 7, I want to find out who wants to compete on both sides of the floor. And Greg Foster has gotten better as the series has gone along. As long as he stays within that area, doesn't get you happy, he's going to make Jerry Sloan happy. Now, when he starts drifting outside and begins to think that he can shoot deep, he's going to find himself on the bench.
Askew finds himself open and hits. Vincent Askew, his first basket of the evening, 27-25, Seattle, 8:40 to play first half.
The size of these interchangeable players for George Karl in the backcourt, Nate McMillan and Vincent Askew, can play up big over the top of guys like John Stockton. Brian Russell now playing the off guard, got to do a better defensive job.
Double team comes to Stockton. Morris to Foster. Foster jumper short. Askew with the rebound. Sonics 2-on-1 if Shemp can get a hold of it, and he cannot.
Terrific retreat by Utah.
They're going to double and make somebody else beat him.
Bukowski, before he gets the 3 away, there is a foul called down low. And Kemp with some words for John Stockton. Nate McMillan with the second personal.
What is Greg Foster doing getting a technical in this situation? Maybe standing up for his teammate John Stockton that got decked in the lane. You don't want to give up a point here.
Take a look at it up above, and you'll see Stockton is stuck right in the fray right there, and actually was trying to draw the foul against Nate McMillan. So he went down. That's when the disagreement came up.
So Shrimp gets the technical. Sonics lead it by 3.
Karl Malone back in the fray. Ahmad Rashad was talking to us about Jerry Sloan's displeasure with Utah's offense against the trapping, pressing defense for Seattle. Utah's handled that the last couple of days. They have not done a good job this afternoon.
Now Brian Russell will move back to the forward position as Hornacek comes back in the backcourt.
Now this is the lineup that has given Seattle the most trouble. Karl Malone up front with Stockton, Hornacek, and Russell out on the floor.
Malone working on Brakowski. Turnaround. Too strong. Loose ball picked off by Hornacek.
And remember, Karl Malone told us he was trying to stay calm and quiet, let the game come to him. So he's still a little bit too excited. He's got to work some of that adrenaline down.
His fadeaway is not working, though.
And there's a foul on Antoine Carr, who is none too pleased about it. That's number 2 on Carr.
After a brilliant start for Utah in the first 5 or 6 minutes, they've really struggled to get good looks. Antoine Carr in foul trouble.
But actually, that was a good foul. Sean Kemp was right at the basket. If he catches it there, it's a throwdown. So they're better off making them reset, come back with another 24 seconds, and make them become a perimeter team.
I would never go for a steal on Sean Kemp. Always make him shoot turnaround fadeaways.
When Seattle's in trouble, it's when they stand, they don't cut to the basket, end up with a 3-second violation. This is a team that needs motion, they need activity, and in this possession, they don't get it.
Steve, Utah's done a fine job of sending those cutters through, setting screens on the weak side, splitting on the strong side. Seattle standing and watching in the post.
The Sonics have had turnover problems lately against Utah. That is their 10th of the game. And Stockton draws the foul from Askew and gets a shot from behind for his trouble. Vincent Askew. That's number 1 as Hersey Hawkins waits to come in. Let's take another look.
What John Stockton has become is the aggressor, and he's attacking the basket. Every one of the Utah guards, of the Seattle guards, are on their heels, and he's beating them with that first step.
What quickness. And Stockton initiated that little confrontation with Brakowski. Askew, he doesn't want to come out of the lineup.
Another foul. Hersey Hawkins. Handshake.
Seattle's guards are so much bigger than Stockton. They can just stand up over the top. But he's so much fresher physically. He's beating guys off the dribble who are good defenders.
But that's been his strength his entire career. Beat people off the dribble, get himself some room, then he starts passing the basketball, get another whistle against the Jazz, and there's Brakowski and Malone going nose to nose.
We expected this would get a little bit physical. This is number 3 on Brakowski.
Well, this is intimidation. Michael Buffers was here. He should be calling this.
When the whistle blows, the players have to walk away and reset once the ball comes back into action. When they start walking toward each other, that's bad.
Karl Malone 0 for 2 from the line, gets counted down again. He is 0 for 3 as Sam Perkins checks in. Malone shooting just 58% from the line in the postseason. Has no explanation for the fall off in his abilities from the line, and he'll get counted again. Let's see how accurate they are. As you might expect, the fans are a little quick. Malone, 1 out of 4, 28-26 Seattle.
You know, it's kind of like they used to put that clock on Ivan Lendl in tennis, and he would always get it away before they had the violation. So Karl Malone knows exactly how much time he needs to get it. It's irritating to the fan. Hawkins.
But there's no intent by Karl Malone to violate the rule.
The foul is on Jeff Hornacek. Hersey Hawkins will be shooting free throws when we come back. 6:46 to play in the first half. Seattle, Washington on a Sunday evening in June. Welcome back, everyone. Here's how this series has gone so far. It opened here in Seattle with a 30-point blowout by the Sonics. Sean Kemp led the way with 21. The Jazz made it closer in game 2, but Gary Payton's 18 points and 8 assists still had the Sonics up 2 games to none. They returned to Salt Lake City. Brian Russell came off the bench to score 24 in game 3, and the Sonics lead was cut to 2-1, but Sam Perkins led the way for Seattle in game 4. Back here Tuesday night in game 5, Jeff Hornacek's 27 cut the Sonics lead to 3 games to 2. And then Thursday night, the runaway Utah victory, 118 to 83, has us at 3 games each. The third time in 5 years that Utah has been in the Western Conference Finals. It's the first time they've won more than 2 games in a final.
Yeah, they're right on the threshold. They all can feel it, and they were all excited about the opportunity to get to face the Chicago Bulls should they win this afternoon. A rare miss from Hersey Hawkins, who has been terrific at the line for the Sonics and really is trying to be the aggressor against Jeff Hornacek, who has tortured him through the first 6 games.
Hawkins gets 1 out of 2, comes into this game shooting 90% from the free throw line in the postseason.
Utah has to be ecstatic that they're within 3 here. Stockton hasn't scored since the first 4.5 minutes of the game. He had 10 points early. Karl Malone's really having a hard go of it.
And Perkins fouls him in the paint.
So with things going poorly for the 2 stars for Utah, the guys that make it all happen, they're right there in the game.
Well, it's been an ugly quarter at the offensive end for both teams. Utah's got 5 points. Malone trying to get them 7 with this pair of free throws. And the Sonics, they have 8. So it's not been a hot-scoring quarter.
Malone now 2 of 5 from the free throw line. Utah just 2 out of 8 from the floor here in the second quarter. And Seattle 3 for 4.
Now remember, the thing about Karl Malone here in Seattle is he's never gotten off to great starts, but he's usually exploded in the second half in the third quarter. So he's trying to find a rhythm, let the game come to him, gets both of those free throws.
29-28, Sonics by 1.
Karl Malone loves the pressure, loves the antagonistic crowd chanting out his name. He wants to take on the entire state of Washington.
Sean Kemp looking for a way around Malone and is fouled by Malone.
Now he's just helping them up, and they're taking it the wrong way. I thought there was a confrontation. Sean Kemp is actually under control.
Karl says, I don't want any help.
Well, that's fine.
But this is the second foul here for Karl Malone. Usually he's clean as a whistle on these type of plays.
He's one of those guys that plays great defense with his hands and got a little bit too much arm, but Sean Kemp is going to take the free throw. Kemp is in this game. He's played under control and not having to be concerned about foul.
Jim Gray tells us Nate McMillan is back in the Seattle locker room stretching out that sore hamstring. Kemp hits them both. 10 points on the night for Kemp, 3-point Seattle lead.
4 rebounds for Kemp. Most importantly, 0 fouls.
The basketball. Hornacek feeds him down low.
Hey, look at Gary Payton step right in there, close enough to where he can be called for illegal, but they call it a deadlift shrimp on the other side. George Carlson, look, that's what they do in Utah. You take a look up top, and you'll see here deadlift shrimp right in the ear, and he's going to move back across the lane. And when you see him, he's standing there in the paint.
The players are arguing, and the coaches, particularly George Karl, arguing way too much. They're acting like the refs care who win this game.
Russell for 3. And Payton has the rebound.
Well, that's because of the bigness of the moment. Both teams have so much at stake, and these groups of players want to get to Chicago on both sides.
Kemp with the handoff to Payton and the travel.
When you make that handoff, and we've seen Stockton and Malone guilty of the same thing, you can't leave it in your hands. When you're going to give it to him, you got to flip it up in the air just 6 inches out of your hand so he knows to take it. When the guard comes by, like Payton did that time, and tries to grab it out of your hands, that's always going to be traveling.
11th Sonics turnover of the night.
They were trying to get Felton Spencer in a game. They wouldn't allow it, so Antoine Carr has to stay in.
They got to get Ryan Russell in this game. We got to get him to make a shot.
5.5 to play in the first half.
The man that they have to get started is Malone, and everything revolves around him. If he gets started, Russell gets shot.
That was his best move of the afternoon. Most authority.
Malone with 9. Jazz are within 1, 31-30. This is Payton now, top of the key.
They would love to become as efficient at running pick and roll as Stockton and Malone. They never quite get the screen set. Kemp inside.
Sean Kemp knows that there's no shot blockers up top out there. Once he gets that deep position, just up and over, lead with that elbow right into Karl Malone.
Stockton gets Payton in the air and then gives it to Carr.
A lot of time on the shot clock.
Now look at Hersey. Hawkins done a much better job. They force a turnover, can't control it.
It is Utah ball with 5 seconds on the shot clock. Jerry Sloan wants a foul, doesn't get it. Here's Karl Malone working on Perkins.
Almost loses his balance. Drops that drop step leg back so far. Kemp comes right back with the same move. Kemp doesn't use the hitch that all the great post players developed, the Abdul-Jabbars, the Akeem Olajuwons, the Karl Malones.
5 seconds on the clock. Spencer inside and gets the bounce.
Nice inbound play. They caught the Sonics asleep. Everybody was pressuring outside, and they just threw right behind the ear for Felton Spencer's easy 2.
Coming up on 4:20 to play in the first half.
They want to set a pick and roll, and they don't get it set. That's been their problem when they try to play the 2-man game.
Payton for 3 out of the corner. No. Rebound off to the Sonics. And Shrimp, did he get the timeout call? He did.
A wasted timeout. Gary Payton's having a tough offensive day. Just 2 for 4 shooting, 5 points.
No, he didn't get the timeout. Mike Mathis pointed in the direction of the Sonic bench. What he meant was it's Utah basketball.
That's a break for the Sonics.
Low-scoring quarter so far. Utah with 11 points, Seattle with 12.
Russell wide open, but he's the guy that Shrimp has to leave, and when he leaves, he's the guy that gets a shot.
Up top, Hornacek grabs the loose ball and rebounded by Shrimp.
What a pass by Stockton. It was like he bounced it off of Payton's backside.
Shrimp on the drive. Walking forward, it counts.
This is the number 3 guy in the offensive priority for the Utah Jazz, and Felton Spencer could never stop moving. Otherwise, he would have gotten the call. Shrimp says, finally, I'm going to get to the line.
Spencer with his 3rd personal.
And it appeared as if Felton Spencer was just starting to get on track. He got a little jumper to roll for him in the lane.
Malone with the rebound.
Detlef Shrimp still able to get by guys with that weak pump fake on the perimeter. He's not making that outside shot. Why go for that?
Stockton for Foster. Gives it to Malone.
Nice pass.
Karl Malone now with 11 points, 35-34. Jazz back within 1.
7 in the quarter. Both teams playing hands defense, and the Jazz poke it away. Payton steals it right back. Can't control it.
As Jim Gray told us, Gary Payton going through a tough time this week of personal family matters, and he wanted everyone to know that his entire family was together last night before the game. They're here in Seattle with him.
And a very confident and animated and poised Gary Payton as well.
Malone goes to Foster at the top of the key, and now Hornacek going to look for Malone again down low.
Well, the Jazz have been making that extra pass. This one has to come out over the top. Hawkins' reaction saying, he was out of bounds.
Well, rarely will you see Jeff Hornacek beat you off the dribble for his own shot.
Stops the clock with 2:49 to play in the first half. 35-34 Seattle.
Here's what's coming up on the Prudential Halftime Report. We'll be joined live by the NBA's Coach of the Year, Phil Jackson of the Chicago Bulls, who are still 83-11 this season and waiting for the winner of tonight's game in the NBA Finals beginning Wednesday night in Chicago. We'll also get the thoughts of Julius Erving and Peter Bessie on the first half of the Jazz and Sonics. A good one so far in the decisive Game 7. Seattle leads it by just a point as we send it back to Key Arena and our starting 5. Greg Gumbel, Steve Jones, Bill Walton, Ahmad Rashad, and Jim Gray.
every single one of us. Bob, thank you very much. 2:49 to play. I want to remind you, the NBA and NBC Sports have teamed up and created the official website for the NBA Finals at finals.com. Game previews, player bios, audio clips, video highlights, and the latest news. And during the NBC broadcast of the Finals, Batman. Fans around the globe can interact with the Cybermeister, Steve Jones, who will be online with commentary and answering fan questions during the game. Check out the official website of the NBA and NBC Sports at finals.com. Jeff Hornacek gets the first of two. Let's go over to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. Well, during that last timeout, George Karl told his team, guys, you got to blow it out here this last 2 minutes and 49 seconds. I only want running. Running and more running. Let's keep pushing it. Greg?
All right, Jim, thank you. Hornacek with the second. And a rare miss for Hornacek, who comes in shooting 90% from the free throw line.
Excuse me, Greg. We got misses by Hornacek, misses by Hawkins. Seattle has 0 fast break points in this game. The running has been without achievement.
Well, they're a team that thrives on tempo. What they want is an open court game. They don't have to bump and grind. They get a foul against John Stockton, who looks bewildered at the call.
John Stockton gets hit with his second personal.
Looked like Stockton had terrific position on a guy who gives up so much size and so much strength and athletic ability to Gary Payton.
I like the way John Stockton always works the official. After every call, he has a little look and he has a little something to say, and then he just goes about business. So he's working for the next call against Gary Payton the next time down.
Gary Payton missed them both, and Kemp is there for the rebound. And it's stripped, picks it up again, and scores.
That is terrible for Utah. You get their best player, Seattle, misses 2 free throws, and then you give up an offensive rebound for a layup. Should have been a foul called on Karl Malone as well.
Well, the ball took that little extra bounce on the rim, but nobody blocked out, and it's a 2-point Sonics lead, 37-35. Malone for Foster.
Nice footwork.
And Foster converts the basket. 4 points for Greg Foster. We're tied at 37 and 1:55 to play.
Now, that's the big man they want to dive into the hoop. Hersey Hawkins, who is willing to let it go, misses at 3.
Ryan Russell did a good job of slowing down Payton on the break, helping out Stockton that time.
Stockton 4 out of 5 from the floor. The rest of the Jazz team shooting just 36%. Malone gets it back. Stockton, now shot clock down to 7. Has to do something in a hurry. He spins. Malone gets it away and hits. Good job by Stockton and Malone, and the Jazz lead it by 2.
Now remember that bad start that Karl Malone had. Well, he's picking up steam. He's got 9 in the quarter, 13 in the ball game, and they have been able to control the tempo of the game and the offensive flow at their end.
Hawkins takes the bump, feeds Kemp.
Sean Kemp comes out and just plays basic basketball, it's out for the opponent. He's got 16 here in the first half.
Good defense without the ball by Hawkins.
Shot clock down to 6. Malone backs in on Perkins and goes to the hook. He'll shoot 2.
Seattle wants an offensive foul here, but very difficult to call an offensive foul because Karl Malone keeps his both hands on the ball so well. When he comes barreling across the lane or down the lane, when he's trailing on the break, he keeps both hands on it the whole time. And then at the very last minute, like Abdul-Jabbar, when he just drops that hand off right into your face, they're going to call that foul on the defender every time.
But you saw that elbow.
Oh, I got that elbow plenty of times.
But that's the same elbow that was delivered by Karl Malone. That's where they wanted the foul. They didn't get it.
It's there, but because he keeps that hand on the ball, as we look at Karl Malone's free throw percentage through the years, become very respectable except for this year in the playoffs. Remember when he first started in the early 80s, it was below 50%.
Well, Malone missed his first 3 free throws tonight. He has now made his last 4.
And the counting is not as vociferous at this point.
And he missed that one. Jazz by 1, 40 seconds to play in the first half.
Seattle can go 2 for 1 if they play quick.
Payton on the move, back outside. Kemp. Payton out of the corner for 3. Sonics by 2.
All set up by the penetration, the inability to keep Payton under control out in front.
5-second shot clock differential. Stockton trying to make it happen. They're going to get a foul against Payton.
Easy play to call.
That's number 2 on Payton. Let's go back and look at it.
As Sean Kemp makes this play, draws the defense, and in the corner, that is Payton's favorite spot on either side. There's reaction routine.
That's the difference in this Sonic team, though, Steve, which we've seen for so many years. When they would make routine plays, guys like Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, the leaders, would just go wild as if this was something really special. But now there's so much maturity, so much more poise and confidence.
Adam Keefe going to come off the Utah bench for Karl Malone. Vincent Askew is into the lineup for Seattle. We have 13.1 to play in the first half as Stockton goes for the tie.
And Stockton scores for the first time since early in the first quarter with that free throw. So they've done a pretty good job of shutting down the penetration of John Stockton. He gets 1 of 2.
He's not shooting free throws worth a darn either. Karl Malone out to prevent picking up his 3rd foul. He's just got 2 right now.
Payton down the lane. Got it.
A lot of time. Get it to Stockton.
And Hornacek can't get it off in time. The Sonics close the first half, shooting 61% from the floor, led by Sean Kemp's 16. In the previous 6 games of this series, the team leading at halftime has been the winner. Tonight, that's Seattle. Back with the Prudential Halftime Report right after this.
This is the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by Prudential. Live well, make a flag, be your own rock.
Halftime in Seattle, and it's thick with drama. The Sonics with a 3-point lead at 44-41. Back in New York, Bob Costas with Dr. J and Peter Vesey. As you know by now, the winner of tonight's game begins the NBA Finals Wednesday in Chicago. So one of the more interested viewers tonight is Bulls head coach Phil Jackson, who joins us right now from the Bulls practice facility just outside Chicago. Just out of curiosity, Phil, once the finals begin, I'm wondering if you plan to run anything at all for Michael Jordan.
Well, I don't know. It makes a big difference as to who we play. I think Utah's guards are one kind of a perspective, and Seattle's got a total different ball of wax there.
You know, what everyone is wondering is whether or not there's any advantage or disadvantage to being off this long. These guys have gone to a Game 7, and you could argue that they're fatigued. And on the other hand, if someone wants to make a case for the Jazz and Sonics, they could say that you guys might have picked up some rust in 9 days. What do you think?
There's going to be some rust. There's no doubt about it, because there's no span of time during the whole season in which we sit longer than 4 days. So that collects a little bit over a period of 8 days. But after the first game, who's going to be rested and who's going to have that live legs? I think we're going to have some live legs, even though it's going to take us a game or a half a game to really find the competitive edge back again.
Phil, congratulations on your Coach of the Year award. And let me just ask you straight up, do you have the perfect basketball team?
You know, there's always something more that you want as a coach, as a basketball team. You know, we don't have a outstanding 6'2", 6-foot guard that can haul the ball up the court and do all the things point-wise that, say, you know, Utah has, or a match for Utah. Steve Kerr's got to match up that kind of a situation. We don't have a dominant 6'10" to 7-foot player in our team, but we've got all the things, the ingredients that can match that, and we've done a real good job doing it during the course of the year.
Phil, you guys have been off so long that Jim Clemens has found the need to go out and get a part-time job. Why did Jerry Krause decide to finally give him permission? Did you ask Jerry to, did you intercede for Jim?
You know, my lobbying position isn't so great right now in the Bulls organization. So there's some subtle ways that you know, we can pull some strings, but I think that Jerry Reinsdorf knew that it was the right time to let Jim have an opportunity. When you're in the playoffs, you're going to the finals, you can't interview a coach, basically, if you don't give him some latitude to have a chance. So, you know, some of the guys in our organization, Jim Rogers and Tex Winter, yeah, they've had experience around, and they've been head coaches in this league. And I'm sure they got their word in with Jerry Krause and with Jerry Reinsdorf.
Well, speaking of coaching movement, you know this question is coming. Even as your main focus is the finals, your own contract is up. And although Rick Pitino turned down the huge numbers and the control that the Nets offered, that does alter the market for a top-flight coach, including for you, doesn't it?
Well, you know, that's one of the things that I've been arguing along with my agent is that the marketplace has changed for coaches. And Pat Riley set that last year, and then the advent of his successor, Don Nelson, replaced him with a salary which changed the marketplace for coaches. And we've been holding our line, basically. And you know, we want the Bulls to pay us what Pitino was going to be offered with the Nets, but you know, that's probably not going to happen. But there's something in between that and what we've been working at here that's compromised position for both of us.
As soon as Pitino turned it down, there was some speculation in New York about you being the guy the Nets would turn toward. And in Sam Smith's column today in the Chicago Tribune, that same speculation was there. Not that Sam was saying it would happen, but that it would be discussed. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, you know, I don't have a reaction to that other than I know the Nets organization. I know the Taub brothers, you know, having worked for them early in their succession of ownership after Roy Bowe released that team and Doc Julius. But, you know, we do have some history together, but this is not something that we've discussed.
I talked to Jerry Reinsdorf, your owner, a couple weeks ago, and he said it was very difficult to get your contract and Jordan's contract settled during the playoffs. But during this long layoff, might something happen at this time?
Well, there might happen, but you know, right now, you know, who's to say? Jerry Reinsdorf is really busy with the business of baseball, and you know, that business that involves him is taking him out of town. And you know, a lot of things are just pointing to the fact that basketball is again going to begin on Wednesday, and it's time for us to really buckle down and get after these playoffs, because this is what it's all about, making it good in the finals.
And back to the finals here, Phil, before we let you go. Can you run anything specific in practice for the Jazz or the Sonics this past week, or do you wait until it's decided and look to that tomorrow?
We did some things in practice, Bob. We did some things with trapping. We did some things with, you know, the pick on the right-hand side of the floor, the little things that we think that Utah likes to run, the screen rolls and the multiple post-up things. We had our second unit, the red team, executing some of those things in practice. We played, you know, 3 10-minute quarters, a couple of halves in the practice this week, trying to generate the interest and the level of competitive desire and drive during the practice with clock, with calls. And yeah, we tried to get it back, but there's nothing like games to give you the edge.
I know you and your team are anxious to go again. We'll see you in a few days in Chicago.
We're looking forward to it.
Okay, Phil Jackson, the Bulls coach, of course. A reminder, the game one of those finals is Wednesday night in Chicago. The Bulls hosting either Seattle or Utah. Airtime 9 o'clock Eastern. And when we return to New York, we'll hear more from Doc and Peter on the first half of tonight's game. But first, a message from Prudential, and as always, a word from the NBA. Okay, let's talk about the Jazz and Sonics. Seattle leading at 44-41 at the half. Doc, this is the first Game 7 in any playoff series in the NBA this year. You played in 8 of them. 4 times with a smile on your face, 4 times you went home unhappy. There's something different, obviously, about the character of a Game 7.
I think so. Both of these teams have played in 2, and they're 1-1. And I just think that the scheme of things has to be very simple. You can't play a lot of 5-on-5 basketball in Game 7s. The officials are going to call everything tight. So the team that plays the best at 2-on-2 basketball, playing the 2-man game like Seattle likes to do with Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, or there are other big people like John Stockton likes to do with Karl Malone. There were a couple plays in the first half where Hornacek and Malone paired up 2-on-2. That's going to be the key in the second half, because it's not going to be a high-scoring game.
Seattle allowed itself to get sucked into Utah's half-court game, and the only way they can survive in the second half is if they get more points out of Detlef Schrempf and Hersey Hawkins. Detlef, very passive, 2 for 3. Hersey Hawkins, 2 for 5. What happens if he didn't get that call from Johnny Dawkins? And the key here is that George Karl has finally adjusted to Hornacek. He's taking the ball out of his hands, averaged 22 points in the first 6 games, 2 for 6 in this game so far.
And Seattle by 3 at the half.
Yeah, kids today just don't listen. Welcome back to Seattle, everyone, where our halftime scores, the Sonics 44 and the Jazz 41. A look at the Miller Lite halftime statistics shows that The Seattle Sonics were shooting the lights out in the first half. 17 of 28, 61% of the floor, led by Sean Kemp, who was 6 of 8 and 16 points. In the turnover department, Seattle has been turning the ball over at a rapid random rate. They are still doing that. In the last 4 games of this series, Seattle has averaged 22.5 turnovers a game. They've got 12 already this evening. Gary Payton with 10 points, but they lead it by 3 at 44-41. John Stockton has turned his game around in the last 2 games. 14 points, 12 assists in Game 6, 11 and 3 so far this evening. Jim Gray is standing by with Seattle coach George Karl. Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. George, you outshoot the Jazz. You out-rebound them 61%, yet you only lead by 3 points. Are you concerned?
I like where we are. I mean, there's a lot of worse places we can be. The turnovers are affecting us a little bit. I think we can, offensively, we can play a lot better, but I love the defensive effort and the focus on the rebounding.
How did the halftime conversation go? Are there a lot of nerves in that locker room?
I don't think so. I think everybody wanted to get back out on the court and play. It's a man's game right now, and that's the way it should be.
George, good luck in the second half. All right, Greg, let's go back out to you.
All right, Jim, and the teams are back on the court. We will play after a timeout. 44-41, Seattle in the lead. Back to Key Arena for the second half. The winner looking ahead to the Chicago Bulls. Back in Seattle, 44-41 Sonics as we get ready to start the third. Leading scorers in this game so far. Take a look for the Utah Jazz. Karl Malone with 14, John Stockton with 11. For the Sonics, Sean Kemp with 16, Gary Payton with 10. Let's check in with Ahmad Rashad. Ahmad.
All right, Greg, Jerry Sloan telling his team at halftime that Seattle's shooting 60% and they're only down 3. The thing that concerned him is they were 6 for 20 from the outside. He said they want to execute their offense better and really get into the offense. Too much standing around on the perimeter. When they post up, they want the guards to cut harder to the basket, try to get some easy buckets. Greg?
All right, Ahmad, thank you. Detlef Schrempf backs in and then the turnaround on the baseline.
Seattle, Greg, has to think finish. They've got to think take care of it one more time. Run and run and run some more until you make your opponent quit and keep Hornacek's hands off the ball. Hornacek, he needs to take 20 shots in this game. He's only got 6 attempts in the first half.
Malone's miss. Schrempf has the Sonics running. Irvin Johnson.
No. It's a terrible shot.
I may not get another shot, and that one was wide open for Irvin Johnson. What they've got to do is get him going to the basket. The Jazz rebound it and turn it over, but Utah is not a team that likes to run on the road, and that's one of the reasons that George Karl is trying to force the tempo to get them to do something they're not accustomed to doing.
John Stockton, in the first 4.5 minutes of the game, scored 10 points in the last 19.5. Detlef Schrempf hits a 3. Stockton has managed just 1 point.
And Jerry Sloan counters quickly with Brian Russell. Too tentative by Chris Morris.
49-41. Stockton converts on the pass from Hornacek.
That play has been there. The passer has got to zip it in. Hornacek, keep his eye on Stockton and vice versa. Seattle's defense way too soft on that play.
Kemp spins, feeds, comes out to the top. Payton left open.
He never leaves the ball.
10 for Gary Payton. Make it 12 for Payton. Timeout, Utah. 17,072 cheering their Sonics, who lead it 51-43.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Reebok. Are you prepared to say, "This is my planet"? By Genuine Chevrolet, the cars more Americans trust. And by Prudential, live well, make a plan, be your own rock.
Well, once the Jazz and the Sonics determine who will meet Chicago in the NBA Finals, NBC has 3 hot must-see TV comedies tonight. Mad About You, News Radio, Third Rock from the Sun, the NBA Western Conference Finals, and must-see TV. What a night, NBC tonight.
Greg, for Utah right now, their consistency that has been their trademark of Stockton and Malone for years. That's not good enough. They have got to play better than they've ever played. They got to raise their game.
This is an 8-point game. Jerry Sloan knows that they're at a real critical point in the ball game. They don't want the Sonics to get to double digits. That's why I call a timeout. Hornacek forcing the shot, but getting the whistle.
Hersey Hawkins commits his second. The Sonics shot 50% from the floor in the first quarter. Since then, they are 12 for 16. So they've stepped up their offensive game.
And the aggressive edge that we detected in Hersey Hawkins yesterday carrying over throughout this game. So strong, so assertive defensively, denying Hornacek completely.
Hornacek hits the first. A look at Jeff Hornacek, who is just lighting things up, 52% from behind the arc. The problem for him tonight has been getting that shot away.
And he's got a quick release. They're not setting screens for him away from the ball. They're not getting any sort of up and down opportunities. Karl Malone's been fading away, not getting to the hoop. Sometimes you have to drive the ball, Greg, right at Hornacek's man. Force a double team with Hawkins, and then Hornacek can get some sort of shot.
Well, this is their hot shooter in the quarter, Detlef Schrempf, but when Russell has been guarding him, he has to...
Sean Kemp with a 2. 53-45, 9.5 to play in the third.
What are you going to do when Sean Kemp plays like that? The guy's shooting perfectly, totally under control, no fouls. Hasn't gone for a pump fake, hasn't double clutched.
Stockton to the other side. 15 for John Stockton. That's his high point total in this series.
Remember, Sloan said if we can just stick in there, keep plodding along, we can get a chance to get control of the game. And it's really on the Sonics to try to force the tempo to not allow Utah to get anything cheap or easy.
And Russell will shoot 2 on the foul from Hawkins. That's number 3 on Hersey Hawkins.
Scowling Hersey Hawkins, not happy at all, but they look like they had gotten control of the ball. They lost it again, and then Russell, bringing it hard to the basket, will go to the line. Now, Russell has been quieted. They have not seen him be the energizer for Sloan so far, but that's why he's in the game, too, because he brings a different kind of energy to the floor.
Wasn't that traveling on that fast break attempt by Russell?
No, he was dribbling. You got to know dribbling. You don't know how to dribble.
Russell, his first 2 points of the night, 53-49. The Jazz down by 8 and now cut it to 4.
It was Russell and Antoine Carr in Game 5 that allowed Utah to win that game and set the stage for tonight. Wild shot, Payton. That's the kind of shot that can get Utah going.
Hornacek for 3. A little bit too long. Kemp with the rebound.
Remember, Carl said that we wanted a little bit of playground, a little bit up and down, but we want them to get out of their character and allow Seattle to get more into theirs.
Well, Payton, from one of his favorite spots on the floor, didn't find anything. Russell for 3.
That is beautiful basketball. You can just see John Stockton's eyes light up as he comes up the court, picking guys out. Maybe this guy, maybe that.
And Kemp turns the ball over. 53-52. Jazz looking for the lead here.
Let one fly, Russell. You just hit one.
He gets the pass from Malone and draws the foul from Schrempf.
Another problem that Russell presents is that he is the guy that's cutting, and Detlef Schrempf is having trouble finding him. When he dives to the basket, he's open.
George Karl sees a little something he doesn't like here, so he calls timeout with 7:59 to play. His Sonics lead it by 1, and you're watching the NBA on NBC. The latest edition of the NBA Finals begins Wednesday night as the Bulls welcome in the winner of this game, Hersey Hawkins. We were speculating earlier tonight about what the Bulls are thinking. Are they resting too much? We asked Hersey.
If you're Chicago, I think you're thinking, thanks, Utah. Thanks, Seattle, for playing 7 games. Of course, giving them the rest to heal all their little aches. And watching us every night, I'm quite sure they've scouted us very, very closely now, and they probably know every little nook and cranny of what each team does. So, they'll be sitting in a pretty good position when whichever team comes in that Wednesday.
But the winner of this game will come in game sharp and on edge already. Now, Chicago has not lost a single game at home in the playoffs, but their roster was built to beat Orlando. So all those big guys they got on that team to bang with Shaq, they'll be immaterial in this series. These teams out here, much more based on skill and interchangeable players.
Brian Russell hits 2 free throws. The Jazz are up 1.
7 1/4 for him, but this also has awakened both of these teams. You know, this series has done for them what the New York series did for the Chicago Bulls. They are going to be ready to play in the finals.
Gary Payton. Spencer with the rebound.
In the first half, that was going for Gary Payton, scoring at will. He had 10 in the first half. He just got 2 here in the second, but you can't miss that over a guy who's under 6 foot in Stockton trying to stop you in the post.
Utah has scored 9 straight.
Well, they got that spark, and Karl Malone hasn't really gotten a rhythm here in the third quarter. Big rebound champ.
You go get that guy, okay?
9 rebounds for Sean Kemp.
In order to quiet him down, Detlef Schrempf has really got to stay aggressive at the offensive end.
Kemp gets a second straight jumper from outside.
Karl Malone is not matching well with Sean Kemp in the perimeter game.
Antoine Carr set to come in. Jerry Sloan wants an illegal defense call on the Sonics. He doesn't get it.
Well, they missed it. They did have Sam Perkins lost in the shuffle, but Kemp wants to guard Karl Malone this afternoon.
Malone goes with the left hand, doesn't fall. And now Malone losing his temper a bit at the other end. That's number 3 on Malone.
The frustration for Malone. He had a shot. He thought he could get down. Sean Kemp playing perfect basketball today. No fouling. Staying completely within himself. I'd penetrate right at Karl Malone, or who's ever guarding Sean Kemp, and get him another jumper from the perimeter right here.
55-54, Seattle by 1.
They're trying to get the ball to Sean Kemp now, who's being guarded by Malone.
Hawkins down the lane, kicks it out. Perkins alone for 3. Sonics by 4, 58-54. And there's the illegal defense call. Jerry Sloan says that's the second time in a row that's happened, but the first time you've called it.
Yeah, Seattle's defense, which is at the top of the league, they're taking Karl Malone out of his game. They're making him shoot fadeaways. They're giving him only opportunities in his least favorite spots on the floor. Give George Karl a lot of credit.
Greg, I didn't know you could read lips so well from so far away.
It's that sign language stuff. Boy, Sean Kemp having himself a night.
Well, he's maturing. We have seen that from game 5 on. Sean Kemp is learning how to play with the emotion and the bigness of the moment.
Under 6 minutes to play.
And as poorly, excuse me, Greg, as it's going for Utah, they're just down 3 points.
And Malone got the ball down low and drew the foul, so he will shoot 2. That's number 1 of the game on Kemp.
But Kemp has stayed out of foul trouble, and you know, even now, in working the official, is doing it in a way to where he might get a call the next time down.
Kemp 4 for 8 from the free throw line, gets counted down again. For Karl Malone.
Hornacek's only taken 1 shot this half. 7 for the game.
Malone goes 2 for 2 from the line, pulls the Jazz to within 1. 58-57 Seattle, 5:50 to play in the third.
Utah really needs Brian Russell and Antoine Carr right now to do something out there.
Payton. Out of bounds off Antoine Carr. It'll be Seattle ball with 12 seconds on the shot clock.
Unforced turnovers, and that's what's been killing the Sonics. This pass right there, and then Payton just loses control of the ball. They're fortunate to get it back. 12 on the shot clock.
They've been averaging 22 turnovers a game, Steve, since game 2. That's not good.
14 turnovers so far tonight. Payton off the mark. Russell Russell has the loose ball. Here comes Stockton and the Jazz.
Nobody's setting screens for Hornacek in the open court. Nobody's trying to help him get off.
Yeah, but Hersey Hawkins is wearing him for a jacket as well. He is not letting him get out of his sight where before he turned him loose.
Malone's pass nowhere near. Payton dishes off Hawkins' face twice and draws the foul. And Malone and Hornacek talking about that missed connection at the other end of the floor.
Gary Payton, fortunate to find Hersey Hawkins. Looked like he'd gotten himself a little bit out of control, but true to his word, Hersey Hawkins said, if I have to force up a few, I'm getting in this game. I am not going to have Dawkins call me again and tell me I didn't do what I do best.
Yeah, he answering those calls at 3 in the morning.
But you can see how Seattle has made the adjustments in realizing that Utah doesn't have shot blockers when Felton Spencer and Greg Foster are on the bench. Antoine Carr and Karl Malone, they never go in the air. It's always down low.
Hawkins hits them both. The Sonics by 3, 60-57. Coming up on 5 minutes to play here in the third quarter.
Isley has to make positive contributions here.
Stockton with a seat on the bench. Malone to Hornacek and blocked by Hawkins. Hawkins left behind, came back for the block on defense.
Karl Malone is giving the ball to cutters who can't do anything with it. He's got to be more selective.
Perkins turnaround. 10 points for Sam Perkins off the Sonics bench. 62-57 Seattle.
If you're going to change the tempo of the game and you're a Sonic fan, you got to look for them to do it right now against Howard Isley.
Seattle crowd comes to its feet. Malone wants the ball down low and gets it back. Powers up, comes up short. Here come the Sonics again. Payton spins, retains control down the lane. Follows, no, tapped up by Shrimp. Jerry Sloan wants timeout.
Utah standing around waiting for calls to be made. They're not coming.
Seattle on an 11-3 run has opened up a 64-57 lead. 3:53 to play in the third quarter. We'll come back to Key Arena in just a moment. This is the NBA on NBC. Back at a noisy Key Arena. Greg Gumbel, Bill Walton, Steve Jones, Ahmad Rashad, Jim Gray, 3:53 to play in the third. The Sonics lead it by 7.
Greg, Utah keeps falling behind, and then they have to serve and fight back with everything they got. They're not a real deep team with the way the bench is producing today or failing to produce today. That's going to wear them out. Karl Malone, John Stockton, they got to get in this game right now and never lose track again.
Well, Stockton is back in the game, and the Sonics were trying to make their break against the inexperienced Howard Isley under the pressure and the bigness of the moment. Last time they were down, it was Russell who brought them back.
Carr's turnaround isn't there. Kemp has the rebound, and he's out of bounds. He was looking for the foul call from Hugh Evans, didn't get it, and just walked out of bounds.
Again, it's the lack of championship experience. Hornacek comes up limping. Remember, he hurt that knee in Game 5. And I'm not sure what Sean Kemp is looking for here. Clearly no foul.
They actually grabbed the ball. He was out of bounds and the ball was inbounds. So there was a violation. He thought he was going to get a call when he and Russell collided. Sonics shooting red hot.
Big men for Utah. Malone and Carr fading away. And Hornacek wincing out here behind the three-point line.
Double team on Malone. He finds Russell. What a shot! Oh, Brian Russell.
Well, Russell is the guy that dives from the weak side. So whenever they double on Karl Malone, that is his first look. You see him look over his shoulder for the cutter. And against the high-flying Sean Kemp, he's still able to get that one away.
But, Steve, you notice how Karl Malone correctly keeps that ball in that triple threat position, something that Akeem Olajuwon did not do in the sweep at the hands of the Sonics.
64-60 Seattle, 3:20 to play.
10 1/4 for Russell, and whenever they've gotten in trouble, he's given them a little life. Hersey Hawkins.
Hawkins leans into Foster and draws the foul.
It's a completely different Hersey Hawkins today.
Hawkins looking for a shot and does it by getting the pump fake and Foster off his feet, but you can't score if you don't look to really be aggressive, and that's what Hawkins is trying to do. He's been averaging around 12 when he's had good games, but he cannot afford to have a game like he had in Game 6 where he gets shut out from the field.
Hawkins now 4 out of 5 from the free throw line.
See, when that guy like Hersey Hawkins comes in that lane and gives that little pump fake, a defender like Foster, who's a legitimate 7-footer, if he keeps his chest out and his hands back, he can get away with going for the initial head fake. But when he comes in there with his hands, they're going to call that foul on the pump fake every time.
Hawkins gets them both and extends the Sonics lead to 6.
More size and more strength on Stockton with Askew.
Hornacek trying to shake Hersey Hawkins. Stockton drives past Askew, doesn't get it to fall.
Ron Kemp making it happen, forcing the miss and still getting the rebound. The most difficult thing for an interior player.
And want to let Payton work a little bit against Stockton, try to make him fatigued a little bit at his end of the floor. They're going against the shot clock now, one-on-one Payton.
Stockton forces him to the baseline, comes up shooting. 16 for Gary Payton. Once again, an 8-point lead for Seattle.
The biggest games decided by the brightest stars.
Malone. Payton in a hurry. Perkins. Down low and back outside. Hersey Hawkins for 3. Timeout, Utah. Building an 11-point lead, the Sonics have outscored Utah 13-3. Gary Payton against the shot clock nails one out of the corner off the baseline, and then Hersey Hawkins, who vowed to do better, has done that. He hits the 3, 71-60. Sonics lead the Jazz, 2:02 to play here in the third quarter. The man from Bradley University is a happy warrior right now.
Jerry Sloan has got to slow things down again. George Karl has finally gotten his team to get into an up-and-down game, stretch Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz out, and that is what has made the difference here in the quarter.
I want to remind you, next Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, NBC Sports has a very special preview of the 96th U.S. Open. We'll look at this year's U.S. Open Championship at historic Oakland Hills Country Club, dubbed the Monster when Ben Hogan tamed it back in 1951. Its greens are legendary, and Johnny Miller will tell you why. And visits with defending champion Corey Payton, Phil Mickelson, and Jack Nicklaus, who tees it up for the national championship for the 40th and perhaps last time. That's all next Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on NBC. Let's check in with Jim Gray. Jim.
All right, thank you, Greg. Well, during this timeout, Detlef Schrempf, before George Karl and his staff came over, went over to Sean Kemp and to Gary Payton, and he said, guys, we're just this close. We're so close to blowing this game out. Let's remain focused. And then he tapped the side of his temple and he said, guys, you two have got to think. You two represent all of us out there. You two must think these remaining 14 minutes. Greg?
All right, Jim.
It's starting to be Seattle Sonic basketball right now. Game 7 playoff facts. Big leads late, very difficult to overcome.
Russell collided and took a shot in the head, but they've got to get Karl Malone in the game at the offensive end.
Hornacek. And now Stockton. Shot clock is down to 5. Russell puts it up for 3. Brian Russell having trouble with his eyes. He's saying he can't see. He shot pretty well for that.
Don't open your eyes. That's the best thing. Just keep shooting blind. He's still squinting.
David Benoit will come in first opportunity.
Right.
Kemp, double team. And tied up by Malone, jump ball. And that will get Benoit into the game for Brian Russell. Here's Russell shooting three. And for a guy you can't see, that's a heck of a shot.
Well, that tells you what kind of a quarter he's having. He's got 13. He's squinting. But he's saying, I can't see. And you know what you say? Then why did you shoot?
You made it. I put him back in there.
Either that or what's the problem? Tap goes to the Jazz.
The difference right now has been Gary Payton has outshined John Stockton. He's been able to take him inside, create three-point opportunities for his teammates outside, and right away, Stockton right back in his face.
Just blew by Payton. 17 for Stockton, 71-65, 55 seconds to play in the quarter.
What the Sonics can't do is get happy because the Utah Jazz are resilient. They know how to play from the rear, and they want to get control of the tempo again.
Nate McMillan, hit it! First 2 points of the game for the Sonics captain, 73-65.
And you see McMillan limping badly out there.
Hornacek. And Hornacek answers right back.
Finally, Utah starting to find some sort of a rhythm.
5 in the quarter, but this is only a 6-point game. They've only built 3 points on their lead. So even though it seems like the Sonics are ready to run off and hide, Utah is not willing to let go.
Perkins for 3. And Benoit with the rebound.
But what an effort by Sean Kemp on the offensive glass. That'll pay off eventually.
Stockton. Benoit tap, no good. Loose ball. Picked off by the Sonics, and that'll do it for the quarter. Hersey, Hawkins vows to make a difference. So far he has 7 points here in the third, 10 on the night. The Sonics lead the Jazz after 12 minutes to play for the Western Conference Championship. We'll be back to Key Arena in Seattle after these messages and a word from your local station. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Paul Sylvie, King 5 Sports. This copyrighted telecast of the National Basketball Association may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the NBA.
Back for the start of the fourth quarter here in Seattle, and our guest cameraman here at the start of the fourth, a familiar face to anybody who's watched any television at all. Richard Dean Anderson. Rick's in town to film an NBC miniseries that'll air in November. I got that right, Pandora's Clock, right, Rick?
Yeah, you know, I've been up here for the last month or so shooting this thing called Pandora's Clock for NBC, but on the weekends, I like to pick up a little extra change doing this.
And we're glad to help. Thanks, Rick.
How am I doing?
Let's go over to Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Greg. Brian Russell left the game moments ago complaining of not being able to see. I just found out that he had bumped heads with Gary Payton, and what he's suffering now is double vision. He's in the locker room. They've applied some eye drops, and I'll keep you posted as to his condition. Greg?
All right, thanks, Ahmad. Utah turns the ball over. Seattle with the ball and a 73-67 lead.
Terrific recovery and poke away by Vincent Askew.
Teams trailing game 7 don't come back to win very often in the fourth quarter. There's a rejection of the Perkins shot, and here come the Jazz 3-on-2. Stockton slows it down. Hornacek.
Don't shoot that one.
Karl Malone's going to get tagged for a foul right there. So now there becomes a problem for Malone, who has not been able to get into the game at the offensive end. His 4th personal foul. Watch the elbow come up on Detlef Schrempf.
That's a big-time shove in the paint. That's number 4 of the game on Karl Malone.
Well, if they're going to let the defense push, you got to get them off you somehow.
Payton spins on Stockton.
This is what we anticipated through the entire series. Payton and Stockton going back and forth with each other. It took Stockton a little while to get himself going, but he is into this game, misses that shot.
Payton comes back, and Stockton with the steal from behind. Hornacek will push. Feeds Malone on the run.
Big-time extension. Karl Malone needed that hoop to get started, and they need him to bring the Mayo down the fourth quarter.
Great how Karl Malone never double clutches on his way to the hoop. It's just pure strength and power.
Perkins with the shot clock running down now to 5. That left Shrimp needs to get it away. Forces it over Malone. And out! Well for Shrimp.
The role players for Seattle, which did not get the job done in the last couple of games, have played solid ball today. Shrimp, Hawkins. For Utah, on the other hand, Antoine Carr hasn't played today.
Benoit loses the handle and turns it over.
Ryan Russell's been in the locker room. He's back out on the bench right now.
And Jerry Sloan has some decisions to make as the crowd goes wild for their Sonics. 9:46 to play in regulation.
Miller, where great taste runs in the family, brings you Miller Moments.
And tonight's Miller Moment spotlights the last time a Western Conference Final went to Game 7. 3 years ago, the Sonics and the Phoenix Suns, the game belonged to Charles Barkley, who had a monster game. 44 points, 24 rebounds. The Suns advanced to the NBA Finals, defeating Seattle 123-110. In recognition of that moment, Miller Brewing Company will donate $1,000 to the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. That man, George Karl, hoping to move on to the NBA's championship round.
3 years ago, Jordan and the Bulls were waiting for the winner again, so nothing has changed except that the Sonics are trying to be the team to get there.
That left Shrimp open for 3, front rim, and Stockton has the rebound.
Sonics, though, have made some major personnel moves since that time, improving team chemistry and versatility off the bench.
That'll be Vincent Askew on the push.
John Stockton is the leading rebounder in the game for the Utah Jazz. He's got 7. That tells you that they're not doing the job on the glass, but he is attacking Vincent Askew. They're going to have to change that matchup. With only an 8-point lead, he's able to break down the defense. That means somebody else is going to get involved.
Brian Russell back on the floor for the Jazz. Stockton finds Russell, and Russell puts it up.
Tough shot, waited so long. Karl Malone's only got 4 rebounds in this game.
Benoit came over to tap it back. So Carr, Russell, Benoit, Malone, and Stockton. Up top, Benoit for 3. And David Benoit curls it home.
Benoit has been waiting for Jerry Sloan to call his name at a meaningful time. He used to start. He wants to prove that he hasn't gone AWOL.
Well, he hurt his knee before Game 4 in the Portland series and been struggling to get any playing time since.
Swing it around to McMillan, who puts up a 3.
That's when the Jazz can get back in the game, when the Sonics stand around and shoot the ball from the perimeter. If they're going to go outside with no movement, Utah's going to control the glass when it back out.
Sean Kemp will be back on the floor at the next whistle. Shot clock is down to 7. The lob from Malone had it blocked and fouled.
Malone wants to shoot. Gary Payton says on the floor.
Foul is on Detlef Shrimp. And that's 4 on Shrimp.
This was a defensive strategy that Seattle utilized in Game 5 that Utah has not capitalized on today. When they run the pick and roll, Seattle loves to switch that. That forces Gary Payton to guard Karl Malone. First time they've created that opportunity. We haven't seen left side pick and roll today for Utah.
And Malone will not shoot. Utah inbounds the ball. Stockton.
The long arm to Sam Perkins.
5-point lead for the Sonics.
The Sonics are best offensively when they go without thinking. If they stop and think, they don't do that. Payton reacts and scores.
20 points tonight for Gary Payton.
Utah, which was so good at the closeouts on the perimeter shooters in Game 6. Not getting it done today, allowing Payton to get whatever he wants in the paint.
Well, Karl Malone told us this morning that he wanted to be like Olajuwon was when they put them out of the misery last year. He wanted to have all the touches.
How about Benoit again from 3. He's 2 for 2 from behind the line. Sonics 79, the Jazz 75.
That's what the Jazz needed, another shot in the arm, and Benoit's provided it 2 3-point field goals.
And coming over to commit the foul is Brian Russell as Stockton went for the steal.
But look what Seattle is doing, and continuing to take advantage of Payton in the post over Stockton. So much size, strength, quickness.
You know, the entire community here, Bill, was nervous about the Sonics, thinking that they would see a replay of the Denver Nuggets, a replay of the LA Lakers, but this team has been different and played true to their character so far. They have been aggressive, and they've been able to hold the lead, but give Utah credit, they are really fighting.
But it's the poise and maturity that we're seeing in Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp that has been the difference from the last couple years, as well as the more relaxed attitude of George Karl. Oh, John.
Another step. Stockton looking for the foul call. Didn't get it. 80 to 77. Sonics by 3. 6:45 to play here in the fourth quarter. Kemp. He'll go to the free throw line.
I like the lineup that Jerry Sloan's using. More athleticism, get Russell into the backcourt, utilize David Benoit.
Antoine Carr draws his 4th personal as the teams go to the bench with 6:42 to play in regulation. The Sonics 80, the Jazz 77. We'll be back to Seattle right after this.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Plymouth. One clever idea after another. That's Plymouth. By McDonald's, the official break of the NBA. Have you had your break today? And by New Miller Beer, the brand new beer from Miller with big flavor that goes down easy.
Welcome back, everyone. In 1993, the Seattle Sonics reached the conference finals, but were beaten in 7 games by Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns. Then, in '94, they had the best record in the NBA, but lost in the first round. The Nuggets won the last 3 games to beat them in 5. And in last season's first round, they won the first game, then dropped 3 in a row to lose to the Lakers in 4, leaving George Karl and company with 3 devastating defeats in 3 consecutive years. Those are the kinds of demons the Sonics are looking to exorcise here tonight. 6:42 to play in regulation. 80 to 77.
In those last 2 years, Greg, in the Denver series, Robert Pack outplayed Gary Payton down the stretch. Last year, it was Nick Van Exel over Gary Payton down the stretch. So far, Gary Payton has had the upper hand over John Stockton.
John Kemp, who's been shouted along with Payton throughout this ball game. It has been a huge game for both of them, and he's delivering from the line.
Let's check in with Jim Bell.
All right, thanks, Greg. Jerry Sloan just telling his team that it's our time right now. They want to look to try to run, but no haphazard shots. Also, Jeff Hornacek will sit on the bench for about another minute or so, and then he'll be back in the game. Greg?
All right, Ahmad, thank you.
They got to get the ball to Malone. He had Payton guarding him. That means somebody's going to be open. Hard throws it out of bounds.
Very poor spacing by Utah that time. And Benoit and Carr in the same position. Antoine Carr, who's been spectacular for Utah pretty much throughout this series, is not having one of his better days.
5-point lead for the Sonics as we approach 6 minutes to play. Shrimp to Hawkins. Back outside.
3 seconds.
And now Hawkins for 3. Benoit with the ball.
Benoit is a man possessed, and in a short period of time, he has given the Jazz the lift that they're needed. And they're not taking care of the ball and trying to get the ball inside to either Karl or Karl Malone.
The bench just not getting it done. Russell, Carr, Benoit.
Kemp tried to muscle it up. Perkins saves to Shrimp. Shot clock at 3. Shrimp long range. Jumper in it!
Detlef Schrempf is having the offensive game that Utah needed from Jeff Hornacek.
Malone. Whistle blows, no basket. Illegal defense call against Seattle.
Detlef Schrempf against the clock will send one skyward. It's the rainmaker right here. He thought he got fouled on the play. He wanted 4, but the crowd erupts again, as well as the bench for the Sonics. Again, they got a little bit of life. John Stockton will come back for an illegal defense technical.
The first 5 games of this series, John Stockton totaled 33 points. That is his 34th point in the last 2 games.
Hornacek back in, and they need him to catch fire. They need to see him come to life. Benoit goes out.
Malone. The Jazz aren't moving well off of Stockton's penetration off the screen.
That's about as loud as it got in the Delta Center on Thursday night back in Salt Lake City, and that's even louder. Kemp.
The one time he double clutches, he doesn't score.
Well, he got himself too deep underneath the basket. He really should have continued to come out the other side. Thought he was going to be able to draw the foul.
Antoine Carr just tossed his goggles off to the sideline. Malone. Karl Malone, who says he wants the basketball down the stretch in games like this, pulls the Jazz to within 5, 4:20 to play.
Those goggles are critical for Antoine Carr, though. He's got a serious long-term eye injury, fractured cheekbone. Can't take the bright lights in that eye at all.
Kemp kicks it to Schrempf.
Big time rebound, Sean Kemp.
And Carr very upset a foul wasn't called.
First half, Antoine Carr was able to pull those balls in. All Sean Kemp lately.
Payton looking for a way around Stockton.
They never set up anything. This is just a one-on-one effort for Payton. Left hand doesn't get it.
Russell with the rebound.
Very poor sequence there for Seattle.
Hornacek goes to Malone down low. And another illegal defense call.
Utah just get right back in this game on these illegal defenses.
You see Carr without the goggles, but it has been war inside between Carr and Kemp, trying to keep him away from the position.
Another on the Hornacek-like miss as Antoine Carr retrieves the goggles.
We talked at the half that Hornacek needed a lot more shots. I thought he needed 20 for the game. He's only taken 9 field goal attempts.
3:20 to play. Malone over Perkins.
Terrific defense by Sam Perkins.
And they're looking for a call, and it's going to be Seattle basketball.
Hornacek thought that Sam Perkins touched it last, and Hugh Evans couldn't see, so the Sonics get a good bounce.
Coming up on 3 minutes to play. Schrempf. And he was fouled, and Dick Bavetta calls a travel. Wow.
Schrempf runs over and says, you had it the other way. Go over there and tell him you had it the other way.
17 Seattle turnovers tonight.
Bavetta's going to take charge here and call the traveling first before Mike Mathis had the foul call. Good teamwork by the officials.
One of Detlef's biggest moves all night and quickest was to the official.
5-point game, the Jazz still in it, and the Sonics have to stay active at the defensive end, try to be disruptive, and then run out of a miss.
Utah just not quick to pass the ball tonight.
Brian Russell on the move. The follow is good by Antoine Carr. 85-82 as we come up on 2.5 to play. Sonics have hit just one of their last 6 shots from the floor.
Coming to Payton against Stockton, and they think they can back him down and beat him off the dribble. Payton.
Sam Perkins for 3. And Russell is there for the rebound.
There were so many Sonics in there. Kemp, Shrem, not a single one of them got in the air. Oh, Brian Russell, the shortest of them all.
2 minutes to play. Batted out of bounds by Perkins. It'll be Utah ball with 7 seconds on the clock, and that's where we'll take a timeout. 1:56 to play. 7 seconds on the shot clock. Utah ball when we come back. They trail by 3. Karl Malone, half of the terrific Hall of Fame duo, Malone and John Stockton. The Jazz have never reached the NBA's championship round. They're looking to do it now.
6'9", 255-pound Karl Malone.
A new NBA assist king, John Stockton. Stockton steals. There it is. Stockton stole the ball. Stockton stole the ball.
The question is, does this run stop here tonight, or does it continue into the NBA's championship round? 7 seconds on the shot clock. Stockton. Shot clock at 2 on the run. In and out and back in again. 85-84, Seattle 22 for John Stockton tonight.
Huge game for Stockton, and like Sloan said, against the clock, Stockton has made a lot of good things happen for me. Once the ball in his hands, Seattle cannot get tentative at the offensive end. 10 on the shot clock.
Kemp. And this one is against Antoine Carr. That is number 5 on Carr. Let's go back to John Stockton.
John Stockton just able to break down the defense off the broken pick and roll and over the outstretched arms of helpless Seattle defenders. As big a shot as John Stockton's ever hit in his career.
Now Antoine Carr playing with 5 fouls.
Well, they're trying to come to Kemp, and they want to get an inside score. Sean Kemp.
And the whistle blows. That'll do it for Antoine Carr.
The discipline of Sean Kemp to get what he wanted. To work him down into the paint. Still with no hitch back to that baseline side to set it all up. But clearly Antoine Carr all over the arm.
In the last 2 victories for Utah, Carr had 8 points in Game 6, 16 points in Game 5. He finishes up with 4 points and 3 rebounds tonight.
He laid his big body out there and banged some people around, made Sean Kemp work a lot harder here in the second half of play. Kemp was nearly perfect in that first half.
But Steve, that is so much what the home court advantage is all about. Sean Kemp gets the first free throw to extend the lead to 2. But it's always those middle-level guys, the Antoine Carrs, the Felton Spencers, the David Benoits. At home, they play great. But what happens when they get out on the road?
87-84 Sonics coming up on 1:10 to play. Hornacek. Hawkins got a piece of that. Hornacek thought he was fouled.
Now, if you're a Sonic, you want to use time, but you don't want to become tentative. So they've got to be aggressive, trying to go a 2-man game between Kemp and Payton. They turn it over.
Malone with the steal.
Malone in transition.
And there's a foul by Payton on Stockton.
Good foul by Payton. Didn't let them get numbers so that they'll have to set up.
Boy, what a battle that has been at the point guard position this series. Owned by Payton until Stockton came alive in Game 6. 40 seconds to play.
This Malone underneath the basket, wide open.
Too slow.
Russell for Malone, who got it. 87-86, and a half minute to play. 22 for Malone.
8-second difference on the shot clock.
Sonics with the ball and a 1-point lead.
If you're the Sonics, you want to have action going to the basket. You want to try to get the whistle if you can. John Kemp.
And Foster gets the foul called against him. Sean Kemp has been a workhorse on the baseline. He will go to the line and shoot 2.
The conditioning of Sean Kemp, but watch Foster put his hands up in the air. Once he puts his hands up in the air, he's showing the ref that he's given up on the play. If he keeps those hands down at the shoulder level as the bench explodes in excitement in anticipation of the pending victory, but Sean Kemp, now's where his conditioning comes in.
Kemp in game 5 had 24 points and 13 rebounds, 26 and 14 in game 6, 24 and 14 tonight, including 8 of 9 from the free throw line. And he is like clockwork now.
Hersey Hawkins coming out of the ball game, ask you in. They're hoping for size in the backcourt. They want Gary Payton against Hornacek, who can shoot threes, but John Stockton can break down the defense and get by Askew. Missed it.
He hit it. Timeout, Utah. .9 to play for the Western Conference title. So many disappointments in the Sonics' recent history can be erased if Seattle can hold on to a lead with 13.9 to play.
If you're the Utah Jazz, you got to take the first score available. If you take a three-point shot, you're inviting yourself to be down by 5 or more with clock running against you. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Hornacek, probably the guys are going to try to get something going real quick, but they got to get the first score and then come back, try to make a steal and foul.
I beg to differ. I think they need to go for the 3 right now and make it. They're going to eventually have to make a 3 because Seattle is shooting free throws very well.
Malone will inbound. Stockton, Benoit, Russell, all on the floor. Stockton for Malone to the basket, and he'll shoot 2. 8.2 on the game clock.
I think Stockton was going to shoot that ball.
No, he wasn't. He wanted to draw the defense. They knew that they were going to come to him. Watch the little fake, knowing Karl Malone is going to be rolling that big frame to the basket. There was a chance to get a three-point play should that one go in the traditional way, but there's no chance.
Karl Malone just 6 of 10 from the line tonight. They have been on him about his free throws the entire series.
Too much bounce in the legs.
It is loud. And George Karl walks all the way to center court to say, I want a 20-second timeout. And the team huddle is going to take place at midcourt. While they huddle, we'll remind you, Wednesday in prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern, Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Chicago Bulls host the winner of this one, the Jazz or the Sonics versus the Bulls. The NBA Finals in prime time, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, here on NBC.
I think Karl Malone's got to miss this free throw and I hope that they can get a rebound and get the ball tapped back out. I'd get Brian Russell, in that Michael Jordan lane that he runs down and tips that free throw back out for 3.
He missed them both. Seattle with the ball and the whistle. George Karl wants to talk to his players on the side. Utah is down to a 20-second timeout and 7.3 on the clock.
Now they fouled the wrong guy, and Hersey Hersey Hawkins is going to be the free thrower. You don't like to have Gary Payton be the guy. He has not shot free throws well. Hersey Hawkins at 90% in the playoffs, and this would be his revenge, a sweet moment to give his team, the fans, the win.
Four-point lead for the Sonics. For three, the leader, no. Rebound, Seattle, and it's over. Going to the NBA championship round. Karl Malone standing by with Ahmad Rashad. Come on.
All right, thanks, Greg. Karl, a very tough loss here today, but you guys did a lot of things that nobody even expected you to do by even being in that seventh game.
Well, it was a tough loss, and obviously I didn't play that well. You know, I got to give them a lot of credit. They play really hard, and you know, we win like men and we lose like men. So I just want to say to their organization, congratulations and good luck. And we played hard. We just didn't get it done. And I missed some easy shots, but I just try to come back next year and do a better job.
All right, Karl, you had a great season. Congratulations to you. All right, let's go back over to Greg.
All right, Ahmad, you expect nothing but class from Karl Malone. That's what we got. Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. I'm now joined by George Karl and Gary Payton. Gary, first let's talk to you. Those four big free throws by Shawn Kemp. How nervous were you when he was shooting that ball?
Well, we've been shooting free throws terrible. And when Shawn stepped up there, I knew he was going to knock him down for it. I was kind of nervous. I ain't going to tell you no lie. But he knocked him down, and that's why he's Shawn Kemp.
How much more relaxed were you today? It's been a very difficult week for you.
Well, I was a lot relaxed today. I started off a little timid and missing a lot of easy shots. But in the second half, I got into it. Coach kept telling me, you know, keep on shooting the ball. And that's what I did, and then I got into a rhythm a little bit.
How about the Chicago Bulls? You don't get too much time to enjoy this.
Well, we can enjoy it for a day or so, but we're going to go out there and we're going to give it all we got. They're a great team, and we're just going to come out and just play.
Gary, congratulations. George, you told your team before the game, just go out and play. We know what they do. They know what we do. How much of that was psychological, and how much of that was just you didn't want to fill them up with anything else?
I thought we played relaxed. It's a very difficult basketball game. Utah battled us every game, and I'm just excited for my team, for our players. And a lot of stuff has been said about him in this city that's not true. And I think now we can say that.
How much relief is there for you now that this is behind you with all of the playoff problems of the past?
My nightmare just begins trying to figure out how to beat Chicago. But it's a city that, after the Mariners last September, there's a lot of excitement here. I think we'll give them a good battle.
Was there doubt in your mind with those failures in the past? Is that maybe why you didn't sleep last night?
I've never doubted this basketball team because it has good chemistry, it has good character, it has good people, and our young guys in Kemp and Payton have grown up.
What about the Chicago Bulls? It seems as though everybody has already said that they're going to win this championship regardless of who won this game.
Well, they're a great team, but we can play defense with them. They're a great defensive team. And we're just going to have to figure some things out to how to start playing number 23.
George, congratulations to you. Enjoy this. It's been a long time coming. All right, Greg, back to you.
All right, Jim, if you're wondering, the Sonics and Bulls split their two games this season. The Sonics won here in Seattle by 5. The Bulls handed them their worst defeat of the regular season in Chicago. What do you expect?
I expect a terrific series.
Payton will jam Jordan, force him to play with his back to the basket. The centers won't be involved much. Rodman and Kemp will be absolutely terrific. My hat's off, though, to the Utah Jazz, the pride and poise and professionalism of Malone and Stockton.
Hats off to both these teams for a great series, Steve.
That's true, and I will take a very quick shot at the Sonics and say they got a chance to be champions.
All right, Steve, our final score, Seattle 90, Utah 86. Join us Wednesday for Game 1 of the NBA Finals as the Seattle Sonics take on Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Wednesday in prime time at 9 p.m. Eastern, the NBA Finals on NBC. Tonight on NBC, it's 3 must-see TV comedies, Mad About You, News Radio, and Third Rock from the Sun. That's all on NBC tonight. For Bill Walton, Steve Jones, Ahmad Rashad, and Jim Gray, I'm Greg Gumbel. Thanks so very much for joining us from Seattle. This has been a presentation of the NBA on NBC.